What were the biggest challenges you faced during your journey and how did you overcome them?
If you buy and sell a product that people must have, you're not going to sell it to everybody for sure, but most people, as long as you're a quality dealer and you do what the customers expect you to do and you're honest, most of the time it's very favorable.
What do you believe has been the single most important factor in sustaining your business for over 4 decades?
That is a maximum way to gain success because today, very few people in business really serve the people. They serve themselves.
How did you adapt to changing market trends and customer preferences? Was there any specific turning point that told you to innovate?
Happiness is not the money. The happiness, how you prepare yourself for your future and your family's future.
What advice would you give to entrepreneurs about managing profits wisely? Hello, everyone. Today we have a great person with us. We're going to do an interview with David Dupuis. It is the second time we have him here in the show. And this time we're going to talk about the success in his business career. Hi, Dave.
Hi, how you doing, Louis?
All good, and yourself?
Very well.
I wanted to ask you if you could give us a quick summary that can serve as an introduction to everyone watching. How would you resume all your success in business?
Most of my success became due from my father and my brother, who both were involved in sales and in automobiles. And I started an automobile business in 1973, and I remained in the same business to this day in 2025.
What do you believe has been the single most important factor in sustaining your business for over 4 decades?
Probably the greatest factor is determination and just be relentless to doing the job without worrying about, complications or failures. Any little failures that I had just made me stronger, and it helped me to end up where I am today.
Did you ever feel like quitting?
No, I've never felt like quitting.
What were the biggest challenges you faced during your journey and how did you overcome them?
The biggest challenges were to try to learn the business as well as having the funds to operate that business. Owning an automobile business is quite expensive. And when I started, it wasn't easy to get loans. So you basically had to start from the ground and work way up. But today, you obviously can get business loans. It would help anybody if they decided they wanted to get involved with this type of work. The job is, it's very lucrative. It's a product that everybody has to have. And so it makes it, honestly, a very easy projection to project the product because most people don't have a choice. They just need it. They have to have an automobile.
So you would say that part of your success is in finding a product that everyone needs?
Well, I think that is one of the most suitable areas. If you buy and sell a product that people must have, you're not going to sell it to everybody for sure, but most people, as long as you're a quality dealer and you do what the customers expect you to do and you're honest, most of the time it's very favorable. So it didn't take but about a year for the company to be quite on its feet. Took 1 year.
Were there any specific moments where you thought the business might not survive?
No, there were no specific moments. What happened was I started in 1973 with my brother, and we worked together until 1978. I'm from Massachusetts, a lot of bad weather, a lot of snow, a lot of rain. And so I felt the only problem I had with the business was the conditions that I had to survive through. So I chose in July of 2008 to come to Florida to see if it would be a successful area. I was never in Florida, not for a purpose of looking for work. And I did realize the choice that I picked was Orlando, Florida, which is extremely growing community because of the Disney and all of the different things that Orlando has to offer. So I chose that area because it has a very high population and a lot of younger people.
Talking about sales, David, what would you say is the most valuable lesson you've learned about sales? And how did you build a customer base that stayed loyal for so long?
The answer is the same for both statements. If you're really concerned about your customers' well-being and you treat them as if that was your very best friend or a family member and do everything you can to assist that person or persons in order to be successful with the automobile that they chose, help them through any repairs, just continually help the same people over and over again. That is a maximum way to gain success because today, very few people in business really serve the people. They serve themselves.
And when you as a customer go to other businesses, do you see that people use the same business principles?
No, on the contrary. I think that most businesses today, just about every business, has used a variety of things that make it very difficult for consumers to even touch base with these places. You buy something, you pay good money for it, you have a problem, you have a question, question. Possibly you want to find out more about that item that you bought. You can't get answers unless you go through a variety of problems. Make a phone call, they reconnect you to someone else, then someone else, then someone else. And then when you finally get connected, the person says, well, I don't have that information. You'll have to call back, or I'll have to reconnect you to another phone number. And you get sick and tired of listening to that story. So this is today's life. 2025 is nothing more than a bunch of people that do the least they can to make the most that they can.
Over the years, how did you adapt to changing market trends and customer preferences? Was there any specific turning point that told you to innovate?
Well, you have to stay up with the times. I understand that. But a lot of things have changed since 1973 to now. The principles of the business are such that if I do everything I can to be in favor of the customer and 99% of the other businesses do not, it's a guaranteed safety zone that you're going to have a lot of people wanting your product. It's really that simple. It's nothing more than to bring back yesteryear, which is 50, 60 years ago, when people used to do everything they could to appease their employer, to appease their customers, to do the right thing, to maintain good quality products for quality people.
As far as building a team, what qualities do you look for in employees? And how do you foster a team that shares your vision for the business?
Well, that's a difficult problem now. It wasn't. When I came to Florida in 1978, it was not a problem because people were all willing to work. People wanted to work. Younger people who weren't willing to go to college, they wanted a job. People coming out of college, they wanted a job. The trend back then was don't stay at home sitting around doing nothing, get out, go to work. So we didn't really have a problem back in the day. It probably started trying to get a decent employee probably around 2015. And then it became worse when the pandemic hit, much worse. A lot of people did not go to work. They worked out of home if they worked at all. Most of them were collecting unemployment or some kind of disability or welfare program. And so a lot of people have become so adjusted to not working or not going to work, in other words, outside their home, that the trend is not to go to work, it's to stay home. It's a shame because, I don't know how a person can be happy with themselves when they don't do anything and they just stay home. To me, if you want to be a happy person, you want to have a happy family, everybody should pitch in, everybody should do the job. Meaning the wife, the husband, and even the children.
And how do you balance that? Self-time, work-life balance, how would you say is the best way to approach it?
Balancing those traits is not very difficult. You either have them or you don't, or you either learn them or you don't. The trait is really simple. A salesperson really needs to have a complete trust, and the people they're dealing with have to have complete trust in the salesperson. Most salespeople are successful today because they're pushy. They try to make something out of nothing. Even if they don't have a sale, they knock on your door. They want to sell you a roof. They insist that you take a look at what they have. They're very, very pushy. So everybody wants the sale right now. People don't want to wait. They're selling something. They want the customer to buy it now. So because of that, there's not a whole lot of patience and understanding and consideration for the person that's trying to buy something. If they can squeeze $1 out of somebody, they'll do it. If they can make a sale, even though the customer's not even happy with it, they'll do it. So everything has turned. And I'm not saying that today's times are terrible. I'm just saying they're so different than when I grew up. And I'm not sure if it has any purpose in life. I can't see where it's functioning. To me, most of the people that I deal with, even my workers, they're on a different line than I'm on. They don't necessarily follow me. They only offer to help me. Their lives are not like my life. I'm not saying that's good, bad, or different, but I have found that if people try their best to do their best for their employer and for the customers and for themselves, most everything would fall in place.
How many times do you think it takes for a sale to be made, or how long? Because you were talking about trying to make a quick sale.
No, I said that's what people do today.
Yeah.
I don't try to do that. What I try to, we have a system that we use, and probably slightly different than many others. We have a very small business in relation to the size of the offices, and quite large according to the size of the inventory that we sell. So when we talk to a customer, we try to get the customer in front of us, as most new car dealers do, because they're trying to find out information about the customer. They're trying to find out what the customer wants, what they can afford, how soon they want it, if someone else has to be involved in the purchase, and all of these questions. And that's all you're doing. A good salesperson basically ask questions like you're asking me. They don't tell things. They don't talk about information. They ask questions. So by answering the customer's questions, as long as you're sincere and you're showing, your gratitude, that person's there and you're trying to do everything you can to make it work, then the person will automatically give you the information that they have. And then you take that information and you try to decipher it as to exactly what that customer can do. In other words, how much money could they afford to pay? How much would their payments need to be? Who's going to be involved in this thing? And usually the sale is automatic because when a person comes to a dealership to buy something, they didn't come there to just have a drink. They didn't come in there to just meet somebody they don't know. They came there to buy a vehicle. So that type of sale is the easiest sale because now you don't have to beg somebody to buy something that you have. People automatically come in. They might browse first, but eventually they're going to come in the door and they're going to talk to a salesperson. And that salesperson will take the time to qualify that person without the person even knowing it. They don't even know they're being qualified. And because you're doing that and still being the best friend of these people, it pretty much simplifies the whole sale. The sale is almost automatic. The only thing that
when they
holds
come
sales
in
up
through your
is,
door, right?
yeah, the sale could be held up if a person doesn't have the money, if they can't afford the payment, if they've got poor credit, then the sale is going to get held up. But for the average person that goes in a dealership, say a new car dealership, well, they're expecting to put money down. They're expecting to trade something in. They know that their payments are going to be long-term, probably 7-8 years. And those people end up buying something oftentimes that they shouldn't be buying because they lock themselves in by walking in there and wanting a vehicle. The salesman, all they have to do is come up with whatever's agreeable to that purchaser, and the sale is made. Now, we don't do that, but that's the simplest sale to make. A sale that the people came to you, they really want the product, they just want a fair deal, and they want to know how much the payment's going to be and how long. They don't even care how long the term is. They just want to know how much the payment is and when's my first payment, and they will sign on the dotted line. So,
Do you ever make any sales outside of your qualifying process? Say outside your dealership.
no, not usually. No, because
If you meet someone, you don't hand them your card.
well, we hand our cards out and the customers have them and they can refer a customer if they'd like, and they get $300 if the person buys a vehicle. But that's our only means of advertising. We don't advertise. We really expect our customers to repurchase over and over again, which they do because we give them everything that other places don't. I'll give you a couple of examples. When a customer comes in to buy a vehicle from us, we flat out tell them that we'll help them with any repairs that they need for as long as they own that vehicle, and charge them $50 per hour and no markup on any parts. Now, there's nobody in the whole United States that I know that does that. And you might say, well, why would you do that? Why would you actually lose money to fix someone's car when you could make money? The answer to that question is every time I spend a little bit of money to give somebody something that they weren't expecting, not only are they thrilled, but they want to send their family and they want to send their friends and they want to send neighbors. So these little things, these twerks that I do are completely offset from any other business. And they have made me so successful over so many years. So it's definitely the right thing to do, and the customers are happier and they repeat their business. And we have basically gone through 45 years without advertising.
That's a lot of years.
Now, there's one other thing that we just put together about 6 months ago. Now, once in a while, we have repairs, and we do our repairs without an appointment. You do not have to make an appointment. You drive your vehicle in. If we could fix it at that time, we will fix it for them right at that time. No appointment. If we can't, we'll tell them whether it's safe to drive, and then we make an appointment for them to come back. Maybe we have to get certain parts, or maybe we just don't have the moment at that time, but we give them the best service we can. If a customer is there waiting for their vehicle to be fixed, if they're in our office for 1 hour or any time longer than that, we will walk up to the customer. We'll excuse for the fact that it's been this long. We're sorry they had to wait. We hope that it hasn't been a major inconvenience, and we'll take $10 out of our pocket and we'll hand it to the customer. And we say to the customer, there's a store right across the street. Feel free to go over there, get yourself something to drink, maybe a small sandwich or something like that. And if you choose not to, just keep the money. We're just happy that we can do some small thing for you for the inconvenience that you're going through by waiting for your car. There's nobody that does that. So selling is not how much money you get, it's how much money you give. When you sell something, you want the public to realize that you can do something that nobody else can do, and you'll give them better service, faster service, with less cost than anybody else. So now you put those things together, And you say to yourself, well, would you rather go to the place that's going to tell you to come back in a week? It's going to tell you, I'm sorry, I can't look at it today. You'll have to bring it in, go through a service center. Or would you rather end up getting everything done now? When they call our place of business, there is no voice recordings. You'll talk to a person immediately. If you drive in, within a minute, you'll have somebody at your door asking you, what can I do to help you? So the business has been extremely profitable only because customers trust us. They buy from us. We're not the cheapest in town. We are not the cheapest, but we probably
I was
have
going to
some of
say
the
that.
best vehicles, and we also have the best service for everybody anytime they come in.
So instead of being the cheapest, it's better to think long term and do as you do, right? Give and take care of that relationship, looking at the long term.
Absolutely. Now, there are businesses. I mean, you could have a product that is not that high in demand, and you're not going to be able to do that. You have to do it with something that has to be repetitive. People that buy a vehicle today, maybe 2-3 years, they buy another vehicle from you. But if you're selling a product that's a one-time deal, or maybe even
Like a home.
right, you are not going to be successful in doing it the way I'm doing it. You have to have a product that people not only want, but need, and they have to have something. And then they have so many choices. Like in Orlando, there's probably 2,500, 3,000 automobile dealers in Orlando. Big place. I'm talking just Orlando city limits now. That's all of Orlando proper, right? Well, having that many automobile dealers is certainly a lot of competition. So how did I ever stay there for 45 years? Same location. And it's nothing more than a small gas station that we converted into an office. The way that it worked was give, give, give. We give everything to our customers that is so unexpected. They have no choice but to want to come back. There's nobody in competition. I have no competition. So as soon as you eliminate the competition, it's pretty hard not to be successful.
And why do you think nobody's willing to do the same, use the
Because
same
people are
strategy
greedy.
as you do?
Most people that are in any business are greedy. They want to sell as many products for as much money they can possibly make with the least amount of confusion and effort. So if you could sell something, for example, you work for McDonald's, you're going to be selling all kinds of hamburgers and stuff like that. If you can get enough people through that door, you're going to make a good amount of money because you got a good name. The product is acceptable by pretty much everybody. But now, and it's repetitive. So they're going to do it over and over and over again. So you have the source to make money. The only problem with that is their amount of money is limited. There's only so much money you can make with one store. Now, if you want to own 5 or 10 McDonald's, yeah, you're going to make a bunch of money. You'll be a millionaire for sure. But if you have one store, it's pretty hard to be extremely confident that you're going to make a lot of money. You might make 200,000, 300,000, even 400,000. Well, you're not going to make $1 million in a year because hamburgers and French fries just don't add up to that kind of numbers, no matter how many you sell. But it's just to show you that how important repetitive stuff is. If you get people to keep coming back, you're going to make money every time they walk in the door.
Valuable advice.
It is.
David, what strategies or decisions helped you grow your business to its peak? Were there any calculated risks that paid off significantly?
Well, there was a heck of a risk when I started. When I started in business in Florida now, not in Massachusetts, in 1981, there was a recession here. And I came to Orlando in 1978, but I did not open my business in 78. I opened the business in 1980. What I did at first is I purchased automobiles in Florida through the automobile auctions, and I had them carried up to Massachusetts where my brother had the automobile business. And he would pay me $100 for every vehicle I sent up there. So I used to send 7 vehicles a week. So back in 1978, that was a lot of money, $700 a week. So I did that for about a year and a half. And then the gasoline prices went up. Not a little bit, a ton. They went from like 50 cents to $1.50 a gallon. So our cost to move these vehicles went from approximately $700. That what it cost to get 7 vehicles, about $100 per vehicle, and it went up to like $1,700-$1,800. So my brother thought, well, gee, this is too expensive for me to pay $1,700-$1,800 plus give you $700. So I would rather just buy them here, and I'll sell what I buy up here, and you can go ahead and do something else. So I didn't have a problem with it, but it was a little bit of a surprise because now there goes my weekly payment, right? I didn't have money now. So he suggested that I try to get into automobile striping, which you see that some of the automobiles, especially of older automobiles, they have these pinstripes on them and graphics on them. And now they have a lot of things that they put on with wraps. But Back then it was all a manual thing that you did. But I did that, and I did it for about a year and a half. And then I sold cars on the side. I'd buy them at the auction. I'd sell maybe one a month, and I'd bring it to my home, and I'd detail it and clean it and fix it and put it out for sale. And probably every month I sold a vehicle. So that helped my income. And then the striping, that would make me about $250. And I would work from 9 in the morning till like noon. And then I would go back into the auto side of it. So I did that for about a year and a half. And then back in 1978, not 78, 1980, I was trying to decide, do I want to get into the automobile business? And my father had moved to Florida, so he was right near me. And I asked him his opinion, and he said, you probably could, but right now it's hard to get a loan. Nobody wants to loan money because the interest rates were crazy. They were 16, 17% interest back then. So you couldn't really borrow the money from the bank. The banks didn't want to lend money because they could get treasury notes for 14% with no risk at all. So they weren't lending. So when that happened, I started to sell automobiles with their financing, but not to borrow money. In other words, I wasn't trying to borrow money to buy something to build. I just decided I'll just sell automobiles and I'll use the bank to help me. So for a few years, not a few years, for a few months, they decided to do that. I didn't have a big problem. I was making a decent living. And then all of a sudden, they weren't going to do it. The banks were just hard class to help people. They wanted to just make the money they could without the risk. So they stopped me from borrowing money from them. I couldn't get money from my customers. So I closed my accounts in the bank. I was very disappointed, and I decided I was going to try to buy a piece of property and maybe I could get going on my own. So I did find this service center, not through myself, but through a realtor that helped me buy my home. It was a lady, and she helped me find this piece of property. And she said, I believe that you can buy this property very reasonable because there's two owners. One company owns the land and another company owns the building. And the people that own the building, they don't want to pay rent. And the people that own the land don't want to be without the rent. So both parties were in the likelihood of losing even more money. So we bought that property for a fraction of what it was worth in 1978. And it was run down. I had some people that were all retired military, older people. I was in my early 30s and they were probably retired. So they're probably 65 or something like that. But they had quality. They were able to do things. One was an electrician, one was an accountant, and one person helped in all kinds of logins and stuff like that, where you do paperwork and corresponding with customers and things of that nature. So they really helped me a lot. They stayed with me from 1978 all the way up, 1980 all the way up until like 85. But during that time, my brother moved down from Massachusetts in 1982. So whatever I made, well, he ended up with half of it, but he worked for me, just like I worked for him in Massachusetts. And so it became necessary that I had to do things differently. There wasn't enough money coming in. So we were only three people at the time. And then I decided, well, if I can get this thing bigger, maybe I can make money on each person that I have working for me. And that's exactly what I did. I bought my brother out and I ran the business by myself. I ended up having my own finance company, so we were able to finance our own vehicles, and I ended up getting about 7 more people that worked for me. So I had detailers, I had mechanics, I had salespeople, I had lot people, runners, I had a lot of different people, office people, and that really is what progressed the whole business. As soon as I had all of these things put together in a package, and then I had the automobiles to sell, it wasn't hard. Used to sell a lot more vehicles when we started than we do today. We sold 60, 70 vehicles a month out of that little place. But now it's not like that because it became so hectic to try to maintain all these customers, 50, 60 a month, and then have to fix everything and babysit these people and do everything that I told you I'm trying to do. It was out of hand. I couldn't do it. I was going to have a nervous breakdown. So my dad had recommended that, maybe because of the interest, because of the automobiles were being sold without problems, maybe what we should do is probably sell newer vehicles, have more markup in the vehicles. And then now that we have interest, we'll make sure that we attach the interest charge to it. And so we were averaging about $3,500 per vehicle then. As soon as we did that, well, we were only averaging about $1,500. So now because it's $3,500 per vehicle and you sell 50 vehicles, that's a lot of money. Now we still had expenses like everybody else. You had payroll, had to pay for the building, had to pay for I had to buy my brother out. I had to pay that. And obviously all the everyday expenses that go along with the business. And so it still was profitable. But it was a lot easier because I didn't have that many. We used to sell maybe 25 or 30, that not 50 or 60. So with all the help, with the way it was set up, the customers were happy. I was doing very well. Nobody was disappointed, neither employees, myself, or the customers. And it just rolled on.
Dave, now that you mentioned money, how did you balance reinvesting in your business with personal wealth building? What advice would you give to entrepreneurs about managing profits wisely?
Well, I'm old school, I promise you that. And so what happened is, I remember as a little kid, I was probably 7, 8 years old. I built a little wooden box that I still have to this day with a little lock on it that anybody could break in about a minute, a second. And I had on there, put my money that I would make as a young boy now, 7, 8 years old. I used to go around from house to house and I'd sell bags of apples. And I would take the money and I'd put it in that box and I would have all that information on the outside of the box. I'd put it on with a pen so I wouldn't lose it, right? And I know how much money was in there. And I did that all the way up until I was old enough to be able to get a job. I did the same thing. And my father hired me to do, this goes way, way back. I might have been 17, 18 years old. I started selling photography, for weddings and new childbirths. And they had this program that we had was out of Dallas, and it had a beautiful, beautiful album. And you could take your photograph that you take with your regular camera, and you could send these photographs. Back then, they were negatives. Send the negatives to this company, and they would clarify everything in that negative, and it would come out almost like a portrait. It wasn't because the background was still the same, but as far as the color, as far as the clarity, it was really good. And so did that for a long time. So that really is what started the whole thing. The sales all came from my dad. And then I just progressively grew and grew and grew until I was working for other companies. I worked for National Biscuit Company, NBC. I worked for Pitney Bowes, which is a mailing operation. And I did that for about 3 or 4 years. And that's what I was doing when my brother and I were selling automobiles out of my home. And then I told him, I'd like to do this full time. And I had 3 children at that time. And he said, well, you can't do it now. You got 3 kids, you got a wife, you got to have a job that maintains an income. And I thought about it. And it took about a month before I made my mind up. And then I gave the company 3 weeks. And I went to work one morning and met my brother out in front of my house. I'm here. I'm not going
So you would
anywhere.
say that
I'm going to keep staying here. I'm going to help you buy cars. I'm going to help you fix the cars. I'm going to help you sell the cars. And that's how we start. So
incredible.
it's really a very unusual story because it's really a wonderful story. And it really had a lot of quality memories to this thing. And it was a family thing. It really was a family deal. And then it ended up with just my brother and myself. And then I bought my brother out. And then he did the same thing at a different location. And I did the same thing at the present location. And all these years, I have no regrets whatsoever. None. Zero.
So you would say that it's never too late. I mean, you weren't old, but you weren't in your 20s, right? You were in your early
I was
30s
in my 30s.
when you
I was
started in
around
this business.
34 years old. I was born in 1944, so that was 34 years old. Well, actually, I was 34 years old when I came to Florida. So by the time I started the business, that was 1980. So I was 36 years old when I started it. So a
And
lot
in a
of things.
very short period of time, you made up for the time that you didn't have your own business, right?
Yes, I was not anticipating the success that we had. I mean, I told you, I moved to Florida in 1978, and I started the business in 1973 with my brother. By 1978, that's only 5 years, I could have retired. I was, 33 years old, 34 years old, and I could have retired. That's how well this company succeeded. But back then, it didn't cost, we took $100 a week, my mother and I, to survive. 100. That was it. We paid our bills. We both had our own home. We both had families. We both had normal things that everybody had to pay every month, but we still survived. And then we kept reinvesting the money back into the business. All we did is just keep buying more and more vehicles. So we started off with maybe 10. And by the time it was 1978, we probably had 45. And at that time, they were much newer. They were more expensive and they were all worth money. We had assets in that. We didn't borrow any money. We just kept reinvesting our own money. And then as time went on, which after I moved to Florida, then I had to start investing money because I didn't have a place to put the money. I mean, I didn't need more vehicles and I didn't want to buy another location. So I just invested it, and I invested with a friend of mine that's involved as a personal finance person. And I got money in the stock market and I had money into collectible cars. I have 24 collectibles, all really nice, high quality muscle cars. Most of them are muscle cars. back in the 60s and early 70s up to 1970. So, like I said, I've been frugal with my money. I don't waste money. I don't intentionally go out and buy things that have no purpose to me, just to say I have it. I have new cars. I live in a beautiful home, but it's a modest home. It's not the most expensive home. I've lived in other homes that are far more valuable than this home. But I've learned that, happiness is not the money. The happiness is how you prepare yourself for your future and your family's future.
And you think what helped do this so well is that you learned it early in your life? Because you know a lot of people that they call the new rich. People go crazy as soon as they have large amounts of money, right? Why do you think that happens?
Very
Or in your
few
case,
people. There's so few people that are rich. I'm talking like I'm probably in the top 5% of all people, but there's only a very few people that are extremely wealthy. They're like 1/10 of 1% that are extremely wealthy. People that are actually high billionaires or trillionaires. Those people, for the most part, either were very successful in an extremely successful business, or they inherited a lot of money, which is most of the time what happens. People that are very successful usually take over a family's business, and they come to having a lot of money. And as long as they don't spend it and they invest it wisely, that money turns into more money and more money and more money. So the people that you think are wealthy are probably not wealthy. And the reason they're not wealthy is because most people get all their money through credit. They borrow, they pay back an interest rate. Let's say they pay back 7%, and they make another 7% on the product they sell. So they end up making 7 cents on every dollar that they take in, as an example. But it's very difficult to be wealthy when you borrow money. I've only borrowed $25,000 in all the time I've been in business, 25 grand. And that's when I
even
actually
if it's
started the first business.
even if it's for investing?
Well, I did. I borrowed $25,000 and bought the property that I'm on right now. That's what I did. I bought that property, and so I had to repay that. But I've never borrowed money to buy automobiles. I've never borrowed money for improvements. I've never borrowed money to assist myself in normal living. Now, obviously, I borrowed money when I bought my home, but like the home I'm in now, I didn't borrow any money. And most of the things that I buy today, I don't borrow money. When you borrow money, all you're doing is you're giving someone else what they want, and all you've got is a bill. That's all you got. Not only do you have the bill for whatever you bought, but now it's not going to be new in another year, 2 years, 3 years. It's going to be, it's okay. I like it. And most people will try to go into something newer and better. They try to upgrade by going into fancier homes, newer cars, fancier cars, new clothing, vacations, all these things. Well, what happens when they do that is instead of taking that money and investing it and making a lot more money from the money that they've already made, they use the money in wasteful ways so that the amount of money that they're really making is very minimal. I mean, they might be making a lot of money, but like I said, most people that are very wealthy have inherited money, or they had a business that just flew. Like, I don't know, somebody that comes out with an invention like .com or something like that. Now you got Nvidia, something like that. If it goes crazy, that person's going to be a million. It's just like winning the biggest lottery. But what's the odds? How does one person out of all the people in the United States or all over the world, how do they become the millionaire or trillionaire just because they got their name picked? Pretty rare.
Pretty rare, yeah.
But people that buy lotteries, for example, that is a way of gambling that is addictive, and it's really a very sad waste. You can't expect to win money on a lottery. Even if you win, they'll let you win occasionally to keep you coming back, or they'll let a neighbor win, or they'll let a friend win. They'll let somebody win that you know. So there's a certain percentage of people that are going to win, and hopefully somebody that you know won. And then you figure, well, gee, if they could do it, I should be able to do it. I've got a guy right now that I bowl with every Thursday. He's 88 years old. He spends $100 a week on lottery tickets. 100 every single
Has
week.
he ever won?
Yeah, he's won. He told me about 4 weeks ago he won 400. Well, big deal. 4 weeks later, he's down 400. He spends $100 a week. So he is an addictive gambler for the lottery, and he's never really won big. So he's taken his welfare money, his Social Security, and he's blowing it because he lives for free. He's got a lady friend that he lives with, and I don't think he pays her any rent or anything. So she's covering the expenses because she's fairly well off, and he's taking his money. He's going out and spending on tickets. So, like I said, I don't think I'm so wise that I'm any better than anybody else. I just think I was lucky. I think I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time and had the upbringing that I had. That's all I can say as far as, how did I get where I am? The grace of God.
Dave, what role has frugality played in your personal and professional life?
Yeah, basically, all the things I've been talking about since we got involved in this automobile thing has basically helped you to understand how everything improved as time went on. Time is on our side. Time's on everybody's side because, uh, most people are not going to have a problem for a long time. Even if they do, they get through the problem, they go and keep on going. So how old are you? 38 or 37 or something?
36.
36. So you can see how long I was 36 when I started this business. 36. And I already could have retired. So it just goes to show you, if you do the right thing, have the right product, have the right ideas in your mind of how you're going to promote this product and how you're going to help the people to understand how much different you could be than someone else, you could be successful almost overnight. It's not overnight, almost overnight. Like 5 years is overnight to me. So that's a very small time to pay for something that's so rewarding. Now, again, I did not blow the money. I didn't spend it on different things. I didn't buy a bunch of new things. I didn't go out and buy all new furniture. I was still in the same building I was in, and it was built in 1960. No modifications. The same exact building. In fact,
What did
it's
you
so
do with the
small,
money?
I had to get another little, what they call a mini office, which is abuts that building. And it's like 20 by 8 feet, or 20 by 10, I think. And we rent that. It's very reasonable. And that's because we have too many people working there to put everybody in a seat. So if I had done all the things that most people do, like they'll put new buildings up, they'll remodel, they'll put fancy equipment, they'll have all kinds of things to impress people with, they're using borrowed money. They're not using their own. So that's the problem with business. Most businesses work with other people's money, not their own. And the reason that they're rich is because they have a lot of things. They have a home, they have a nice car, they have motorcycles, they have boats, they have campers, they have everything because they bought all these things through the business, but they probably still owe money on a lot of those things, maybe all of them.
Do you think that's one of the most common financial mistakes you've seen business owners make?
It's not a mistake. The thing, if you went to a financial advisor, I promise you, they're going to tell you to borrow the money, pay as low of interest as you can, and then make money with that money. Don't use your own money. Well, every finance advisor is going to tell you. Now, I'm not sure why. I suppose I have limitations to how much money I can make because the only way I could make more money is I would have to have more businesses, and then I would have more headaches and more problems. So I have never chose to do that. But I'm just saying that the more you borrow, the more you continue to borrow. So people are on these revolving accounts. So in business, you can get a revolving credit card, which means you could borrow money against it anytime you want. It goes up to $100,000 or $200,000. I'm talking quality business owners, maybe $500,000, and they can borrow against that anytime they want. So if they feel that they want to put an addition on their building, if they feel that they want to put new equipment in, or they want to have something that is going to be expensive, they use that money, and they're hoping that whatever they build, whatever they added, will make them the money that they need to surpass whatever they pay. But there aren't too many people, I don't think, that can borrow money, build a business, 5 years later they can retire. I think that's pretty uncommon. You have to be really lucky. You'd have to pick a very special business that happens to be a gold mine because
You
it's
think
pretty.
it's possible today, 2025?
Yeah, if you could invent something. The people that invent something, even people that go on YouTube, Facebook, and they're selling products that they basically invented, things that probably do work for the ease of the general public. They're doing something that the general public probably wants. And they probably can make a lot of money with that because they're doing nothing more than just interacting with everyday people who need these products. That's what I say. If you have something in demand, you can be very successful quite easily. If you have nothing in demand, well, then who's going to buy from you? So if you go on Facebook, you'll see they'll have gadgets, all kinds of gadgets, everything you can imagine. I don't care what it is, they come up with it. How to get screws that are all rusted out, how to do this, how to do that. They have now I watch they got a welder that you hold in your hand like a screw, like a drill, electric drill, and you can weld anything with this. Well, I've never seen such a thing. A welder is normally a big piece of equipment. The darn thing weighs a bunch of weight, and it takes somebody with a lot of brains and intelligence to be able to weld. Now they got a welder. You just pull a button like you would on a trigger of a drill, and there's your weld. Now, whoever did that, I mean, if it really works, he'll sell thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands, because every machine shop, every mechanical shop needs that kind of a welder. But nobody ever had it. Now he's got it. So you can imagine how much money that guy's going to generate for himself. Probably cost him $50 to make the thing or $40 to make it. And he probably has, a lot of time invested in making that thing, or somebody did. But he probably can sell them for 200, 250, and he'll be killing it. You sell a couple of thousand or 10,000 of those things, you're going to make a lot of money. That's the other thing about business. If you're very inexpensive, like a ham, especially now when the price has gone way down because they can't seem to make a living in McDonald's. If you sell something that makes very little money, can you imagine how many you got to sell as compared to if you could make $5,000 or $10,000 with one item? So the key is you have to have an item that people want that you possibly could make $5,000, $10,000 on every sale. So now you don't need a whole bunch of sales. You could probably survive easily if you only sold one in a month. As long as you didn't have to pay for a business and rent something, you could probably survive okay, right? But what if you sold 30 in a month and you could make 5,000, or maybe make 8,000, or maybe make 10,000? Because now you got interest, you got all these different things you can make money on. And if you could do that, you don't have to work as hard, because now you're doing everything with a relatively small number of sales. So the larger the sale, the more money that you can make. But it has to be in demand. It can't be something that, is off the wall.
Well, Dave, that takes us to our last question to wrap it up.
Mhm.
For younger business owners today, what are 3 key pieces of advice you'd give to help them achieve long-term financial security while running a successful business?
Well, the first thing is that you don't have to have an education to be smart. Education doesn't necessarily make anybody smart. It makes them smarter in certain things. But to be smart, you have to choose something that you're good at that you can provide to other people, because everybody needs different things. So you don't have to have a high education, but you have to be smart. You have to be willing to start from the basic bottom and show how much you can do for someone or some business until all of a sudden you're part owner in the business. That's one way to do it. The other thing is if you do get an education, make sure you get an education that promises you a good quality life. Don't pick an education like don't be a teacher, because a teacher doesn't make much money and they go through a lot of misery to me, and they make very little. Pick something that is high demanded that pays well. And then probably the last thing is don't give up. Stick with it. Draw up a plan, stick with it.
For how long should you test it?
Basically, that question is really indefinite, because let's say this fails, then you go right back into the same scenario, do it again with a different idea. Remember, you don't need an education. You don't have to go to school. What you have to be is you have to be a person that's easy to talk with, somebody that's trusting and honest, somebody that wants to help someone and is willing to give whatever it takes to do all of that. And then products, everybody buys products. So as long as you got a product somebody wants, and you could do a better job with your product than somebody else can with their product, you're most likely, once you get your face out there, you're going to be able to make a good business.
Thank you very much, Dave.
You're welcome. Thank you, Louis. I appreciate the opportunity.
Congratulations for your great success and for striving and creating a successful business for you and your family.
Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe and tell us in the comment section below what you found most interesting in this story. If you would like to see more stories like this, click here. Thanks for watching.